Hello, Game Cooker US Rocks VR here. I'm about to test the RTX 2070 with the Shadow of the Tomb Raider ray tracing and DLSS. I'll probably do 1440p and 1080p. Um, I already tested my RTX 2080 Ti, and I don't know. It seems like to me they don't have the ray tracing implemented well enough yet, because it just looked like a lot of shadowing was either not being done or it was being done inaccurately. So I think they got to tweak the game more to get the ray tracing working much better. Now the game does look better when you turn ray tracing on. Um, I can't explain exactly how or why. It just, to me, it looks crisper, at least with my 2080 Ti. So, um, anyway, so let's get started here. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna run the game. I'm gonna do. I was gonna do 4K, but I might as well not even bother because it's kind of stupid. It ain't gonna be able to run it at 4K. So I'll do 1440. VSync is off. DirectX 12 on. Ray tracing is off for now. So what I'll do is I'll run the benchmark regular at 1440. Everything's on ultra. Bloom is off. Motion blur is off. Depth of field is off. Pretty much everything that I normally turn off anyway. VSync is off just because that gives a more accurate frame rate count. So, you're going to see some tearing, so just ignore that. Alright, so here we go. So I'm going to run regular 1440. Okay, so 75 frames per second at 1440p. I guess that's not bad, just considering everything's on ultra. Not bad, and I'm running a 8-core Intel Core i7-7820X 8-core processor. It's clocked up to 4.7, and I'm using all the latest updates. Alright, so let's turn on ray tracing. I'm thinking put it on high, but I'll try ultra just to see how much of a hit it takes. So it's on ultra. So RTX 2070, ray trace on ultra. Let's run the benchmark. Okay, so ray tracing on Ultra, 41 frames per second. That's not bad. Now when you put on the VSync, it smooths out things really nicely. So even at 35 to 40 frames per second, the game runs smooth, you know, and it looks good. Um, alrighty, so not bad. So 41 frames per second. Everything's on Ultra. So I mean the RTX 2070. I don't know. It's pretty. I'm impressed. I mean, I thought it was going to be much lower than that. Um, so it's basically the same as the RTX 2080 and 2080 Ti in 4K. You know, that runs at about 37 frames per second average. So the 2070 is 2 steps down, and it's running at about, you know, 37 to 41 frames per second at 1440p. So it's scaling down, um, yeah, pretty evenly actually. All right, so now we're going to try DLSS and bump up the frame rates. Um, now DLSS is not really for 1440p, so just to make that clear. It's really for 4K, um, you know, to make the 4K run better. Um, I'm just going to run it here just to show you how much it increases the frame rates. Um, but the overall picture might be slightly blurred because, you know, the AI, the DLSS is not meant to downscale 1440p and then upscale it again. So here we're going to run the benchmark 1440p, DLSS on, ray trace on Ultra. Okay, well that was quite a surprise. Quite a surprise. I thought it was going to go up into the 60s for the average, but we got an extra 10 frames per second average. I mean, which is still good. I mean, it looked fine. Actually, there wasn't really much blur at all. Um, when I ran it on the RTX 2080 Ti, it looked blurry, but that might be because I'm on my 4K monitor. So, you know, it, it looks its best when it's running in the native. So since this is on a computer monitor, it looked a lot better. So, you know, the extra 10 frames per second, I guess that's all you really need. Again, if you put VSync on, it'll run a lot smoother. So, you know, you won't have any tearing or anything like that. So if you have a nice G-Sync monitor or adaptive sync monitor, you guys should be okay. So, But I mean, nonetheless, I'm still quite impressed. So, yeah, 51 frames per second with DLSS on and ray tracing on Ultra. Pretty good. You know, that RTX 2070, man, it's pretty beefy. I mean, it's more powerful than a GTX 1080, so, you know, that tells you something right there. All right. We're going to do 1080 now. We're going to turn off we're definitely not doing DLSS with 1080. You don't really need to. So we're going to turn off ray tracing. We're going to go down to 1080p. Apply. Hit yes. Going to keep DirectX 12. Everything's still on Ultra. Alright, good. So 1920, we're going to do a regular run, then we're going to do DLSS. Okay, so it's pretty much ran as expected. 104 frames per second average. Although I think that's kind of skewed by that you know, outdoor area in the valley before you go down to the town village. I don't even know why they have that in there, because it's like it just skews the frames per second. I think the best thing is the village and the jungle, and you know the courtyard, you know, where the restaurant and bar is. They should have put another kind of a location in there, like maybe in a cave or something. I don't know. Yeah, that outdoor though messes everything up with the frames per second, but whatever, doesn't really matter. The benchmark is hard on the video cards anyway. The benchmark really doesn't reflect the game at all. I mean, the game runs better than the benchmark shows. Alright, so we're going to do ray tracing ultra. So we're going to put this all the way up. Ultra. Go out and back in again just to make sure it took, because it doesn't like tell you to hit apply. So Ultra 1920 by 1080. We're not going to do DLSS because there's really no reason to. So let's see how much of a hit this takes. 1080p ray tracing Ultra. Okay, so RTX 2070, 1080p, ray tracing quality on ultra, 61 frames per second. But you might as well drop that down to like 51 because, again, that outdoor area just kind of skews it. But yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. I thought it was going to actually do somewhat better. But 61 frames per second is pretty good. Um, I mean, I would probably play it at 1440p because it looks, you know, better graphically. I mean, it still looked good at 1080p. So, I mean, definitely worth playing at 1080p as well. Um, and again, if you have adaptive sync, VSync, G-Sync, it'll smooth out that whole experience. So, you know, don't worry about the frame rates being low. I mean, unless you're really, really anal about it. Um, so yeah, so RTX 2070. I'm actually impressed. It ran ray tracing at 1440p at a fairly decent frame rate, 41 frames per second. I mean, can't really complain about that. Um, but again, this game is not running the ray tracing properly. I don't think they have it implemented right, or they're not finished or something, because when you're in the game, the shadows are not rendering the way that you would think they would in all the areas and all the different spots. So um, they made this game really weird. Like, there's a lot of fake lighting, there's a lot of baked lighting, there's a lot of hard shadows. Um, like the areas where the candles are in the game, like the candles aren't even giving off light, it seems. I mean, you can, they're, you know, there's a flame, but it's not like radiating the light out. So if you walk up to a specific candle, you won't see your leg light up, you know? So it's just strange the way they made this game. I mean, personally, I think Rise of the Tomb Raider looks better. And it seems like they did a lot of real-time lighting in that game compared to this one. But maybe they wanted to make it more console-friendly or something. I don't know. Anyway, I still like the game. It still looks nice. Um, so anyway, there you go. RTX 2070. Um, definitely a 1440p card for sure. Um, you can run games at 4K. Um, you know, depending on what they are, like between 40 to 60 frames per second. Um, definitely wouldn't want to do it with ray tracing though. All right. Well, anyway, I would say if you want to experience some ray tracing, and you can't really afford a 2080 or a 2080 Ti, I would say the sweet spot is the RTX 2070. If you just buy the black edition for $499, you can overclock it a little bit, and it'll give you better than GTX 1080 performance. All right, Game Cooker US Rock signing off. Take care, everybody. Bye.